I really think that life is more like that little piece of everything's not perfect.
If you have to have things perfect in order to be joyful, you're never going to be joyful.
Few stories shake faith and leadership like the trials faced by Rick Warren. How does a man who guided millions through purpose confront a crisis?
Sometimes the people who claim to be the most tolerant, this is the thing, the problem is that people are pushing for approval. They don't want just acceptance.
That weakens his own strength. At the height of influence, he was forced into silence by an unseen struggle within his own body.
I focus on my own changes. I don't focus on changing you. That's not the goal of my group.
This isn't just about illness or loss. It's about resilience under pressure. Behind the headlines lies a deeper story.
I never intended purpose-driven life to be read by unbelievers. It's a spiritual growth emphasis that we've done every year for 30 years.
One that reveals how suffering can reshape a life built on guiding others, turning pain into a powerful testament of endurance and faith. The unseen struggle emerges. For more than 4 decades, Rick Warren stood firmly as a beacon of hope and spiritual guidance for millions around the world. Yet beneath the surface of his powerful ministry and best-selling books,
I didn't actually write it as a book. I wrote it as the workbook for our 40 days of purpose.
An invisible battle quietly took hold of his life. His health began to deteriorate in ways that threatened not only his well-being, but the very future of the church he built from the ground up. It was a struggle that few expected, affecting a man who had dedicated his life to strengthening others. The first signs were subtle, uncontrollable muscle spasms that crept in and made daily life unpredictable and painful. These spasms, triggered by adrenaline, caused intense discomfort and exhaustion, making preaching and leading nearly impossible. Soon, doctors uncovered a rare neurological disorder that explained these relentless tremors. Yet that diagnosis was only the beginning of a cascade of afflictions that turned Rick Warren's world upside down. Alongside this condition, a mysterious brain disorder emerged, impairing his body's ability to process adrenaline properly. This left him disoriented, trembling, and in constant pain, fundamentally altering how his body responded to stress. On top of that, an autoimmune disease struck, causing chronic inflammation and muscle pain that persisted around the clock. The combined weight of these illnesses drew a dark curtain over his once boundless energy and focus. For someone whose life and work depended on endurance and clarity, these health challenges were devastating. The man who tirelessly carried others through their pain now found himself weakened and vulnerable. Rumors swirled about his condition, but Rick Warren faced this storm with an honesty few could muster. The fight was intensely personal, shrouded in physical agony and emotional upheaval. His spirit remained unbroken despite the pain he experienced. He described how his suppressed emotions resulted in physical harm to his body, which demonstrated the strong connection between mental health and physical health. He had to confront his physical limitations after both treatments and rest periods revealed the severity of his condition. The ministry, which had been his life's mission, now required him to meet demands that he found increasingly difficult to fulfill. Rick Warren made the heartbreaking choice to resign from his position as senior pastor at Saddleback Church, which he had led for more than 40 years, by June 2021. The decision shocked his congregation and attracted attention throughout the entire religious community. The man who had so profoundly shaped Christian thought was handing over leadership, signaling not an end but a painful new chapter. He became the founding pastor and dedicated himself to mentoring and global outreach work, but his health problems completely transformed his life path. This public resignation became a crucial moment that would demonstrate the true extent of his perseverance and faith. The complete account of his struggle, which affected him directly and those who cared about him and his followers, remained largely untold. Rick Warren's health crisis created an important turning point because it revealed his private battle with serious health issues. The shadow that fell across his existence helped us understand both his capacity to endure and his vulnerable human side, which existed behind his international recognition. As we look back to where it all began, the roots of Rick Warren's faith offer insight into the values and vision that shaped his extraordinary life, now facing new trials. Roots of faith and vision. Rick Warren's story did not start in the bright spotlight, but rather in a small town nestled among California vineyards, far from the megachurch stages he would one day command. Born Richard Dwayne Warren in San Jose, he was raised in Ukiah, a quiet community that shaped his early understanding of faith and service. His father, Jimmy Warren, was a humble Baptist minister and carpenter, building churches in small towns, literal and spiritual foundations for communities in need. Faith was woven into the fabric of Rick's childhood. His mother, Dot, a librarian, nurtured his love for books and curiosity about the world, complementing the spiritual lessons learned from his father's ministry and craftsmanship. The Warrens lived faith not as a ritual, but as a daily practice, a conviction that shaped Rick from an early age. Watching his father travel and work tirelessly left a profound impression, a blend of humility, perseverance, and devotion. A defining moment came one evening when young Rick overheard his father praying with tears, asking God to allow him to build one more church before he died. This simple prayer echoed in Rick's mind for decades, planting a seed of purpose and vision that would come to define his life. In school, Rick was not the loudest or most popular, but he already had clarity of direction. He devoured theology books and led Bible studies, quietly setting the stage for his calling. By his senior year, Rick's leadership was undeniable. He established the Fishers of Men Club as the first Christian gathering at his public high school. It was a bold move during a time of cultural upheaval, signaling that he would not blend into the background, but stand out with conviction. This early activism illustrated his unyielding desire to reach those outside traditional religious walls, a theme that would recur throughout his ministry. After finishing high school, he developed his educational dedication at California Baptist University. His life-changing experience happened when he traveled to hear W.A. Criswell's sermon. Rick interpreted the unexpected prayer that Criswell delivered as a divine message that he would create significant impact for God throughout his life. The combination of his early life experiences established his dedication to creating fresh projects that would diverge from established methods. His educational programs at both Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary and Fuller Theological Seminary succeeded in developing his theological understanding, but his goal remained beyond merely earning academic credentials. He wanted to create a religious space that would serve both believers and people whom the established faith system had excluded. He made his most daring choice when he abandoned everything he knew to begin a new life. In 1980, Rick Warren relocated to Orange County with his wife Kay. They began their new life without any church building or membership base, depending only on their religious beliefs. The church that emerged from this faith-based decision created a movement that served the spiritual needs of numerous people. Their humble beginnings created the foundation for their entire system. The faith that began in a small town would eventually spread throughout the world to create new churches and ministry methods that would transform countless lives. The initial steps of this journey created a path that eventually developed into a large-scale movement far exceeding a simple assembly in a high school theatre. The foundation of faith and purpose fueled the next chapter, where a small group of believers transformed into the powerhouse that became Saddleback Church, building a movement from nothing. On Easter Sunday, April 6, 1980, Rick and Kay Warren held their first service in a borrowed high school theatre. There was no building, no established following, just a clear message. 205 people showed up, many attending church for the first time. His sermon, A Daring Faith, set the tone for something different, simple, direct, and grounded in real life. From that moment, Saddleback Church began to grow, not through tradition or spectacle, but through genuine connection. Rick's conversational style made faith feel practical, addressing everyday struggles like relationships, purpose, and pain. People weren't drawn to ritual, they were drawn to relevance. The early years were anything but stable. Without a permanent home, the church moved constantly, meeting in school gyms, community centers, and even tents. Volunteers set up and packed down everything each week, earning the nickname A Church with Wheels. It was exhausting, but it built a strong sense of commitment and shared purpose. The lack of a building didn't weaken the church, it strengthened its identity. Through the 1980s, that vision began to take hold. The church expanded rapidly across Southern California, attracting people searching for meaning rather than tradition. Rick's focus was clear: reach those who felt disconnected, not just those already inside the system. That approach turned a small gathering into one of the fastest growing congregations in the region. By 1993, after years of constant movement, Saddleback opened its first permanent worship center in Lake Forest. It marked more than growth. It proved that persistence and vision could outlast uncertainty. Attendance had climbed past 10,000 weekly, reflecting the power of a message people could relate to. Rick later captured that vision in his 1995 book, The Purpose-Driven Church, outlining a framework built on worship, fellowship, discipleship, ministry, and mission. It gave leaders a clear path to build communities with depth and structure. But his global impact truly surged with The Purpose-Driven Life in 2002. Written for everyday people, it reached millions searching for meaning, becoming one of the most influential books of its kind. From a rented theatre to a worldwide movement, Rick Warren built something that resonated far beyond its origins. His focus on purpose and connection shaped a generation. Yet behind the rapid growth, the weight of leadership quietly grew as well, pressures that would eventually test both his strength and his faith. This rising wave of impact would soon meet a personal and profound storm, testing the very foundations of Rick Warren's faith and mission, the global influence of purpose. Rick Warren's impact extended far beyond the Sunday services at Saddleback Church, reaching millions through his writings and ministries worldwide. His 1995 book, The Purpose-Driven Church, introduced a new model for church health and growth, focusing on 5 biblical purposes: worship, fellowship, discipleship, ministry, and mission. This practical framework became an essential tool for pastors striving to build vibrant, purpose-filled congregations. Within a few years, it had inspired and trained over 200,000 church leaders around the globe. Yet it was The Purpose-Driven Life, published in 2002, that transformed Rick Warren into a household name far beyond religious circles. Written as a 40-day spiritual journey for everyday people wrestling with life's meaning, the book's simple yet profound message resonated deeply. It sold over 1 million copies within its first few months, and by 2020 its sales topped 50 million copies in 85 languages. The reach of The Purpose-Driven Life stretched into unexpected areas, touching celebrities, politicians, and athletes. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps credited the book with providing perspective during his rehabilitation, while others publicly acknowledged its life-changing influence. Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama both referenced its teachings in speeches, highlighting its wide cultural penetration. The book's message about finding purpose transcended denominational and national boundaries. The combination of his rising popularity and professional achievements did not lead Rick Warren to change his fundamental beliefs about life. He donated 90% of his earnings to charity and terminated his church employment, which paid him $110,000 annually, returning all his earnings from the previous 25 years. His practice of reverse tithing demonstrated his commitment to living out his values. He and Kay maintained their simple lifestyle by residing in their long-time home, which they had owned for years, establishing trust through their modest living and honest behavior. Saddleback Church developed into an international church network that expanded its operations far beyond its original base in California. The church operated multiple campuses, which served more than 20,000 worshippers each week at its peak in the mid-2000s. The church established satellite locations that extended from Berlin to Buenos Aires, while its online services reached millions of viewers. Rick Warren used his global presence to amplify his vision, enabling it to expand at an increasing rate. Throughout his career, Rick used his ability to connect people from different faiths, cultural backgrounds, and political beliefs to create lasting relationships. His genuine personality, combined with his dedication to acquiring meaningful knowledge, established him as an uncommon moral voice. However, the new job responsibilities brought him additional stress to manage. The leadership duties he faced at work required constant effort, which eventually strained his physical strength and mental stability while creating future difficulties. This loss would upend his personal life and mission, revealing the profound humanity beneath the global pulpit and calling him to transform grief into hope. The family tragedy and its aftermath. The deepest turning point in the lives of Rick and Kay Warren came through a tragedy no amount of faith or preparation could prevent. For years, their marriage had endured hardship, financial strain, emotional wounds, and the weight of past trauma, strengthened through counseling and shared belief. They thought they had already faced their hardest battles. They hadn't. On April 5th, 2013, their youngest son Matthew passed away at the age of 27 after a long struggle with mental illness. From childhood, he faced deep depression and internal battles that no treatment fully eased. Despite years of medical care, therapy, and spiritual support, the darkness never completely lifted. His loss didn't just break a family, it sent shockwaves through the global community that looked to Rick Warren for guidance and hope. Rick later described the grief as beyond words. In his address to the congregation, he described Matthew as a person who showed both kindness and deep empathy while he experienced his own silent battles. The situation developed through a combination of empathy and the pain of watching his son suffer. Some questioned how a man of faith could face such a loss. Rather than respond with anger, Rick addressed the situation with honesty. Rick explained that many people wanted to know why God had not healed his son. He returned to the pulpit after several months with a message born from his suffering. The presentation revealed raw material that came from authentic human experience. This turning point established a new path that both he and Kay would follow. The couple turned their grieving process into meaningful action by establishing the Hope for Mental Health program. The organization worked to create a safe environment where individuals could find support while dealing with their personal battles. Kay became a leading voice for compassion-centered care, working alongside medical professionals and faith leaders to challenge stigma. Their message reached thousands, many of whom had never spoken openly about their struggles before. Rick would later explain that faith and mental illness exist as two different aspects that people can hold simultaneously. The battle between their advocacy work and another concealed conflict became increasingly intense. Rick experienced a decline in his health, which forced him to acknowledge his new medical limitations. The man, who had supported others throughout his entire life, now entered a silent battle that would bring about his toughest life challenge. From this crucible of loss and suffering, a deeper understanding of faith and purpose would emerge, one that continues to inspire millions around the world. Redemption through faith and legacy. The final chapters of Rick Warren's life journey reveal his path to redemption. After retiring from his position as senior pastor at Saddleback Church in 2021, he became a founding pastor dedicated to training leaders and building international programs while sharing his lifetime of ministry experiences. Although he no longer delivers sermons every week, people still respect his words because of his accomplishments and the profound personal grief he has endured and transformed. His influence continues through global efforts like the Finishing the Task Coalition, which works to advance church expansion and leadership development in every part of the world. The small initial gathering developed into a widespread movement that now reaches tens of thousands of people every week because his purpose-driven message directs communities that extend far beyond his single preaching location. He co-founded the mental health ministry Hope for Mental Health with Kay Warren, which originated from a tragic event that transformed how churches address mental health issues. The organization developed through honest dialogues, which allowed families to access help by combining their faith with professional treatment and caring support services. He continues to fight through his ongoing health difficulties. His neurological condition and autoimmune disease have forced him to reduce his activities, which now define his everyday existence. His willingness to speak about his pain has made his message more relatable to people who experience their own internal battles. He often reminds others that no one is without flaws and everyone needs grace. His current message includes fewer triumphant declarations because it reveals his authentic life experiences. He knows that faith helps people endure their suffering because it provides them with the strength to navigate their challenges. His message carries greater urgency because he has constructed a solid foundation for his legacy. Rick Warren's life demonstrates that people can maintain their faith through trials that test their deepest beliefs. His legacy, from establishing an international church network to assisting people with their mental health challenges, serves as a reminder that people discover their life purpose through difficult experiences. Rick Warren's journey shows us that faith does not shield us from hardship. It strengthens us to face it with hope and resilience. His legacy reminds us that purpose is often shaped in seasons of struggle and refined through service to others. If this story spoke to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more meaningful stories that matter. And when you're ready, explore the next story waiting on your screen. You might find a message there you didn't even know you needed.